Hello everyone, welcome back. You will not believe who's been pulling the strings this entire time. The storm over Fairmont Crest didn't just bring thunder and lightning. It brought truth, the kind of truth that creeps in slowly, wraps around every secret and refuses to let go. And right at the center of it all, Dani, quiet, observant Dani, who everyone thought was still recovering, still piecing herself back together. But while the town whispered about Lynette's shocking return, Dani wasn't reacting, she was watching. Because she already knew exactly how this story was going to unfold, Lynette's reappearance sent shockwaves through every corner of Crest. People froze mid conversation when she walked into a room, their voices dropping to hushed tones, their eyes filled with suspicion and curiosity. It was like a ghost had come back to life. But this ghost had unfinished business, and while everyone scrambled to figure out who brought her back, pointing fingers at Thomas, Bill, even Martin, they completely overlooked the one person who had been orchestrating everything from the shadows. The Dupree estate felt suffocating that night, the air thick with the scent of rain creeping in through slightly open windows. Danny stood perfectly still, her fingertips grazing the cold glass as lightning illuminated her reflection. Her face looked different. Not softer, not broken, but sharpened, focused. You could almost hear the quiet ticking of her thoughts, like a clock counting down to something inevitable. And honestly, I couldn't believe how calm she looked knowing what she had set in motion. Weeks earlier, before Lynette ever returned, Danny had already reached her breaking point. Hayley had pushed her there, slowly, methodically tearing apart her life piece by piece. It wasn't loud or explosive, it was calculated. That's what made it worse. The betrayal didn't just hurt, it lingered, like a bitter taste that refused to fade. Danny had lost control, and if there's one thing we know about her, it's that she doesn't stay powerless for long. So, instead of reacting, Danny did something far more dangerous. She started planning. Late nights turned into early mornings as she dug through old contacts. Whispered conversations over burner phones, chasing leads that seemed to disappear as quickly as they surfaced. The sound of ceiling fans spinning above her, papers scattered across tables, the faint glow of her phone lighting up her determined expression. It all painted a picture of someone who wasn't just searching, she was hunting. Finding Lynette wasn't easy. In fact, it felt almost impossible at times. There were dead ends, false identities, places that led nowhere. But Danny didn't give up, and when she finally tracked Lynette down to that quiet little town, everything shifted. The meeting itself wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no tears, just two women standing across from each other. Years of history hanging heavy in the silence. Lynette's guarded eyes said everything. She didn't trust Danny, not yet. When Lynette told her, "You shouldn't be here," there was a tension in her voice, like she was bracing for impact. But Danny didn't back down. She never does. Her response was calm, almost too calm, and that's what made it powerful. You could feel the weight of everything unspoken between them. The shared history, with Hayley sitting like a storm cloud ready to burst. Convincing Lynette to return was the real challenge. Lynette had built a life away from the chaos, away from the pain that Fairmont Crest represented, and honestly, who could blame her? But Danny knew exactly where to strike. When she said Hayley is still winning, it was like flipping a switch. You could almost see the moment Lynette's wall started to crack, the past rushing back into her mind like a flood. She couldn't stop. From that point on, everything moved quickly, but not recklessly. Their alliance was fragile, built on necessity rather than trust. They worked together, but there was always a distance between them, like two people walking side by side, but never quite in sync. Still, Danny's plan was brilliant. Instead of confronting Hayley head on, she created chaos. She made Lynette's return unpredictable, something Hayley couldn't control, and that unpredictability, that's what made it powerful. When Lynette stepped back into Fairmont Crest, the reaction was immediate. conversations died mid sentence. The hum of the town shifting into something uneasy, the sound of heels against polished floors echoed louder than usual. Every glance sharper, every whisper more urgent, and Haley, she noticed. Of course, she did. At first, she played it perfectly, cool, composed, almost amused. But Danny saw through that facade. The tension in Haley's jaw, the way her eyes lingered just a second too long, it was all there. Behind the scenes, Danny and Lynette worked tirelessly. Papers rustled late into the night. Files spread across tables, the faint smell of ink and old documents filling the room. They uncovered things Haley had buried deep. Financial discrepancies, secret meetings, alliances that didn't make sense. Each discovery felt like pulling a thread from a sweater, unraveling something much bigger than they had anticipated. But then came the paranoia, the feeling that they weren't alone. It started subtly. A document slightly out of place, a phone call cutting off mid sentence, footsteps echoing in empty hallways. Lynette felt it first, her instincts sharper, her eyes constantly scanning. Danny tried to stay rational, but even she couldn't ignore the growing sense that someone was watching them. And then the gala. The atmosphere that night was electric, the soft clinking of glasses, the low murmur of conversations, the polished elegance hiding something much darker beneath the surface. When Lynette walked in, everything stopped. It was like time itself hesitated. Every eye turned toward her, the weight of her presence undeniable. And just when you thought it couldn't get more intense, Haley appeared. Their eye contact, chilling, years of betrayal, anger, unfinished business. All of it condensed into a single moment, no words were needed. You could feel it in the air, thick and suffocating. Danny watched from a distance, her expression unreadable, but you just knew this was part of her plan. But then everything shifted. Haley wasn't alone. The realization hit like a punch to the gut. The people around her, the subtle glances exchanged, it became clear that Haley had built something bigger than anyone realized. And suddenly the game Danny thought she was controlling started to slip through her fingers. The most shocking part, Lynette, the secrets she had been keeping, the pieces of her past that didn't quite fit. It all started to surface when Danny confronted her, demanding answers. The hesitation in Lynette's response said everything. And when she finally spoke, it changed everything. Because now Danny wasn't just dealing with an enemy, she was dealing with a wild card. This changes the entire power dynamic in Fairmont Crest. Danny's carefully constructed plan is no longer airtight. By bringing Lynette back, she introduced an unpredictable element. One that could either help her take down Haley or completely destroy everything she's been working toward. Haley, on the other hand, is no longer just reacting. She's revealing strength, alliances, and a deeper game that suggests she's been prepared for something like this all along. The consequences are massive. Trust is fractured, alliances are unstable, and the line between friend and enemy is dangerously thin. Dani may have started this game, but she is no longer the only one playing. Honestly, I can't believe Dani thought she could control something like this. Bringing Lynette back was both genius, even, but also incredibly risky. And now we are seeing exactly why. Lynette is not someone you can predict or manage. And that hesitation she showed, that tells me she's hiding something huge. And Haley, she's way more powerful than anyone gave her credit for. So now the question is, did Dani just make the biggest mistake of her life? Or is this chaos exactly what she needed to finally take Haley down? And what is Lynette really hiding? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you trust Lynette, or do you think she's about to betray Dani in the worst way possible? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on Fairmont Crest's most explosive drama.